Lee might have been a character out of an English novel, such were his eccentricities and colorful past. He had once been married to an Indian woman, the daughter of a Seneca chief. He had served gallantly with the British Army in Spain, and as aide-de-camp to the King of Poland. Like Frederick the Great, he made a flamboyant show of his love for dogs, keeping 2 or 3 with him most of the time. A New Hampshire clergyman, Jeremy Belknap, after dining with the general in Cambridge, thought him an odd genius, a great sloven, wretchedly profane, and a great admirer of dogs, one of them a native of Pomerania, which he should have taken for a bear had he seen him in the woods. Lee was also self-assured, highly opinionated, moody and ill-tempered. His Indian name was Boiling Water, and he was thought by many to have the best military mind of any of the generals, a view he openly shared. Washington considered him the first officer in military knowledge and experience we have in the whole Army, and it was at Washington's specific request that Congress had made Lee second in command. Whatever opinions Lee had of Washington, he kept to himself, except to remark that he thought the appellation Excellency perfectly absurd. In striking contrast to Lee was Major General Artemus Ward, a heavy-set, pious-looking Massachusetts farmer, storekeeper, justice of the peace, and veteran of the French and Indian War, who had had overall command of the siege of Boston prior to Washington's arrival. Ward was considered a good man, a thorough New England man, though uninspiring. General Lee privately called him a fat old church warden with no acquaintance whatever with military matters. But if unspectacular, Ward was competent, thoughtful, and not without good sense, as time would show. Washington had assigned Lee to command the left wing of the Army, Putnam the center, while Ward was responsible for the right wing, which included Dorchester. As early as July 9th, at Washington's first council of war, it had been proposed that the Army take possession of Dorchester Heights, but the idea was unanimously rejected. Ward, however, refused to drop the subject. When, in August, he again recommended that an effort be made to fortify the heights, again, nothing was done. The brigadiers present now were John Thomas and William Heath of Massachusetts, John Sullivan of New Hampshire, Joseph Spencer of Connecticut, and Nathanael Greene. Thomas was a physician in his early 50s, tall and quiet-spoken. Heath, a much younger man, was a fifth-generation Roxbury farmer, aged 38, who would affably describe himself in a memoir as of middling stature, light complexion, very corpulent, and bald-headed. Sullivan, a lawyer and politician in his mid-40s, had served with Washington in the Continental Congress, and Spencer, who was older even than Israel Putnam, his troops referred to him as Granny, would play almost no part. Of these New Englanders, all citizen soldiers, Washington quickly surmised that Thomas, Sullivan, and Greene were the best he had. Thomas was the most commanding in appearance and had served in the French and Indian War. Earlier, his pride hurt that the less experienced Heath was to outrank him. Thomas had talked of resigning until Washington sent an urgent plea in which, paraphrasing a line from his favorite play, Cato, he said that in such a cause as they were engaged, surely every post ought to be deemed honorable in which a man can serve his country. His council assembled, Washington made the case for an all-out amphibious assault on Boston by sending troops across the Back Bay in flat-bottomed boats big enough to carry 50 men each. He reminded the generals of what they already knew, that winter was fast approaching and the troops were without barracks and firewood, that men already eager to go home would be extremely difficult to keep on duty once they felt the severity of a northern winter. When enlistments expired, the disbanding of one army before another was assembled could mean ruin. Gunpowder was still in short supply, but there was enough at hand to mount an attack. Of course, the hazard, the loss of men in the attempt, and the probable consequences of failure had also to be considered. There was discussion of these and other points, including the enemy's defenses, after which it was agreed unanimously not to attack, not for the present at least. It was a sound decision.
The hazard was far too great, the chance of disastrous failure all too real. Casualties could have been horrendous. Unless they caught the tide exactly right, the men in the boats could have been stranded on mud flats 100 yards or more from dry ground and forced to struggle through knee-deep muck while under withering fire. The slaughter could have been quite as horrible as that of the British at Bunker Hill. In fact, such a headlong attack on their works was exactly what the British generals were hoping for, certain that if the Americans were to be so foolhardy, it would mean the end of the rebellion. In restraining Washington, the Council had proven its value. For the present, at least, discretion was truly the better part of valor. Washington accepted the decision, but work on the flat-bottomed boats continued, and in a long letter to John Hancock, he made the case for a decisive stroke, adding, quote, "I cannot say that I have wholly laid it aside." Many in Congress, he sensed, were as impatient as he with the stalemate. The state of inactivity in which this army has lain for some time by no means corresponds with my wishes by some decisive stroke to relieve my country from the heavy expense its subsistence must create. As Washington also reminded Hancock, and thus Congress, his war chest was empty. The fact that the troops had not been paid for weeks did not help morale or alleviate hardships at home. The paymaster has a single dollar in hand. Money, at least, was on the way. On September 29th, $500,000 in Continental bills from Philadelphia were delivered to the headquarters at Cambridge, and in a few days, thousands of troops were at last receiving some pay. "I send you $11, Lieutenant Joseph Hodgkins wrote to his wife Sarah on October 6th. His monthly pay was $13. Asked what they were fighting for, most of the Army, officers and men in the ranks, would, until now, have said it was in defense of their country and of their rightful liberties as free-born Englishmen. It was to defend our common rights that he went to war, Nathaniel Greene had told his wife. The British regulars, the hated redcoats, were the invaders and must be repelled. We are soldiers who devote ourselves to arms not for the invasion of other countries, but for the defense of our own, not for the gratification of our own private interest, but for the public security," Greene had written in another letter to Samuel Ward. Writing to General Thomas, Washington had said the object was neither glory nor extent of territory, but a defense of all that is dear and valuable in life. Independence was not mentioned, nor had independence been on the minds of those who fought at Bunker Hill, or in Washington's thoughts when he took command of the army.
en route to Cambridge from Philadelphia, he had been quite specific in assuring the New York Provincial Congress that every exertion of my worthy colleagues and myself will be equally extended to the re-establishment of peace and harmony between the mother country and the colonies. But more and more of late, there was talk of independence. The Reverend Belknap, from his visits to the camps, concluded that independence had become a favorite point in the army. A declaration of independence
was heartily wished for, wrote Nathaniel Greene, who was one of the first to say it in writing. We had as good to begin in earnest first as last. In late September, the discovery that the Surgeon General of the Army and head of the hospital at Cambridge, Dr. Benjamin Church, was a spy, the first American traitor, rocked everyone. Church had been one of the local dignitaries who had escorted Washington into Cambridge the day of his arrival. He was as prominent and trustworthy a man as any in the province, it was thought, a member of the Provincial Congress, poet, author, a Harvard classmate of John Hancock, and an outspoken patriot. Yet the whole time he had been secretly corresponding with the British in cipher and was in their pay. His treachery had been discovered quite by chance. A mysterious enciphered letter, carried by a young woman of questionable morals, had wound up in the hands of a friend of Nathaniel Greene, who brought the letter to Greene, who in turn carried it directly to Washington. When the woman was apprehended, she confessed she had been keeping company with Church and said the letter was his. The letter was deciphered and Church exposed. The whole army, indeed all New England and the Congress at Philadelphia, were stunned. Who could say how many other Dr. Churches there might be? Church, who was tried, convicted, and imprisoned, kept insisting he was innocent. Sent into exile on a ship bound for the West Indies, he disappeared at sea. Only years later did further evidence come to light proving his guilt.